If you're running a 7 or 8-figure brand, you probably have a pretty good idea of what's coming in 2026. Agentic shopping, insane AI images and videos. Everyone's talking about it. But what I wanted to show you are a few fundamental shifts that most sellers don't realize yet. And these are going to change how we think about business operations in the age of AI. So let's get into it. AI model intelligence is no longer the bottleneck. So new model releases are not going to change much for the majority of users. Let me explain. The truth is that the major large language models are already far more capable than most people realize. And what's even more interesting, if we take a look at this chart of how these models became more capable and smarter over time, we will notice that the difference in capability between these models is getting smaller and smaller. This means that the AI intelligence is getting commoditized. So a popular question is, which model is the best? Is pretty much a meaningless question. It's like asking which electricity is the best, right? What matters is the application. And that is why the app layer that comes with the AI model becomes more and more important. For example, ChatGPT and their custom GPTs, their projects, or Claude and their skills and connectors, or maybe Gemini with their seamless integration into your Gmail and Google Drive. So now the question is, if the intelligence is no longer the bottleneck, what is stopping us for leveraging AI better in our business? And the truth is that it's context. Context is now our bottleneck. The biggest bottleneck with AI is that it knows everything on the entire internet, but it doesn't know you. It doesn't know your business, your processes. It doesn't know what happened on your last meeting, and it doesn't know your goals for this year. That is why context engineering becomes more and more important. In the past, when you wanted to optimize your output from AI and you were learning how to work with it, you had to learn prompt engineering, how to communicate with it. But now the new models are so good at understanding even vague instructions that prompt engineering is not as important. What matters now is context. How much context we can actually provide so the AI can tailor its output for our business and for our situation. Because if we don't provide any context, we're just dealing with generic chatbot, and no amount of intelligence can really save us, right? And if we are managing our context manually, let's say you go into your Claude and you want to review the performance of your Q4, you need to explain what your business is. You need to explain what your goals were. You need to say everything that happened. So it kind of defeats the whole purpose of being more efficient and productive. So I wanted to show you how we actually implement this and what it can look like when we are implementing proper context engineering in the business. So the idea is that we want to give the AI access to pretty much everything that happens in the business. So one of the ways to do this is that we feed everything into a backend database. So everything from your Asana, your task management, your company wiki, every single meeting, everything that happens on Slack, chatting with your team gets saved in a database. So when the time comes and you're having a conversation with your AI, it knows literally everything, and it probably remembers even more than you do. So when we then ask a question like here, to review Q4, he will go and search what were our plans for the quarter. He will search every single meeting, what you discussed with your team. He will take a look at your tasks. So he immediately knows and can evaluate what happened and help you basically perform the task without managing all of the context manually. So this is an example of what proper context engineering might look like. So once we are able to provide enough context for the AI, we can start integrating it into our workflows. And I want to stress out one important thing. Everyone kind of wants the robot employee, the fully autonomous agent that comes into our business and we tell him, hey, manage my supply chain. But unfortunately, this is still not working very well, and it is still quite unreliable, mainly because the large language models are probabilistic by nature. This means that they generate different outputs every single time, which is nice because that is creativity, right? If we ask him to write a poem about nature, every single time it's going to be different. But a lot of times, our business processes need consistency and reliability, right? That means that our processes should be deterministic, input, output. When you are placing a purchase order, there is some math behind it, and you want your purchase order to look the same every single time. And currently, AI is not so great at it. So the way to integrate AI into your workflows is actually create these agentic workflows rather than letting an AI agent fully autonomously run the whole process. So the way this looks like is that we have a manual process, let's say with 4 steps, and we identify which of these steps can be handled by AI, essentially assisting the employee. That is how we can save 40, 50, 60% of the time required to perform this process while maintaining the quality of the output, because still we have the human in the loop. That is how we get it reliable and consistent. What's important here is that if we don't know what the process looks like, if our process is a mess and all of the information lives in the head of our employees, it's very hard to identify which of these steps should be handled by AI. So if we have no processes or messy processes, it's very hard to actually integrate AI in the business in the first place. That is why for most businesses, the biggest value unlock is actually stepping back and do the good old process mapping, right? That has nothing to do with AI. We are just mapping out the systems and the processes in the business. So then we can sit down and actually identify what can be handled by AI and how AI can assist our team to perform the tasks faster and better. And we can already see that this is becoming the standard as Claude currently release Claude Cowork, which is essentially for orchestrating these agents and managing them and sending them on tasks. So as you can see from this UI, for example, you can ask your agent to go ahead and gather data, right? That would be the part of the process, the data gathering, so you can then take a look at it and make a decision, right? So this is how it works, the agent orchestration. So those are agentic workflows rather than a fully autonomous agent, right? And we can really see that this is where it's currently heading, right? Because the current chatbot, the large language model, that is not enough to do this, right? That is why Claude came up with Claude Cowork, where we can essentially orchestrate these agents, assign them tasks, and see how they work and how they perform. And that is actually where the people who like multitasking are going to shine, because this will be the age of multitasking, where we have multiple agents sending them to do tasks, and we are there to kind of manage them and make sure that all of the workflows are executed properly. And by the way, this is one of the main reasons why I personally prefer Claude. If we go back to the point of the actually app layer behind the model, it's not necessarily that Claude, the Sonnet model or Opus, is necessarily smarter than ChatGPT or Gemini, but the app behind it and the thought behind Anthropic, how they're building these tools, is just what I like, because that is with business in mind. So I will show you how we actually, how this can look like in practice, the practical implementation of this, right? The first step, as I said, is actually doing an AI audit, sitting down and just mapping out the tasks, the routines, the processes, what happens when, to have a rough idea about the systems in your business, how and everything works and how everything fits together. Because once we do that, we can start building agents that are there to assist our employees, right? We are not replacing anyone. Our goal is to optimize and automate 40, 50, maybe 60% of their workload so they can simply handle more. So let's say in this example, if we had an employee who is a brand manager, we can identify workflows and areas of the business where he might need help, right? So the help will be in form of agents, where we teach the agent to have specific knowledge to help him with the task. So in this example, it can be a listing strategist and it can be a product researcher, right? There can be more, but these are specialized agents to know as much as possible about that particular topic. But now what's beautiful, and what also Claude allows us to do, and this is something that other AI models and companies are adopting, are what's called AI skills. These skills are essentially the parts of the workflow, right? As I showed you here, where we identified that some of these steps in our processes could be done with AI, those can be done with skills. Imagine those skills to be essentially your procedures, right? You have your SOPs, your procedure. This is how you execute it. So we teach it to the AI agent. So in this example, the agent is not fully autonomously taking care of everything, of creating listings and everything. He's there to assist the person, the brand manager on the team. And the beautiful thing about this is that the skills, as I said, are essentially procedures, but they can also have access to specific tools. And I will show you an example what this looks like, right? So for example, listing strategist can have 2 skills for creating listings, which the skill gives him access to Google Sheets, so he can gather data and create the listing there, and potentially review analyzer, and he can use tools like Apify to scrape listings and then save it in Notion, right? The same way you would write a procedure for a person, the part of the process has been identified that this can be done with AI. So instead of 2 hours of our brand manager spending time on that, the agent can perform this particular thing. Again, he's not handling the whole thing end to end. He's doing a few things from the particular process. And then the product researcher could have another skill. If I give you a specific example, there can be the listing strategist, right? As we said, the agent, the listing strategist, is trained to optimize product pages for maximum click-through rate and conversion through data-driven content and creative recommendation. So he is an expert at conversion optimization, right? That is the agent. Again, the confusion between AI agent, someone who is like fully autonomous doing the things, he's just there, essentially your large language model, where we can talk all about listings. But when it comes to actually taking action, he has a specific skill, which is called review intelligence, right? That is part of a workflow. Let's say when optimizing listings, when our brand manager wants to optimize listings, he wants to gather data from reviews. And before, he would have to go there, download it manually, and so on and so on. But we identified that this could be a potential skill using Apify, which allows us to scrape the website, right? In this case, Amazon, scrape the reviews and give him insights, right? Saving him 2-3 hours every single time he does that. So what this looks like is that he goes into Claude where this agent lives and he has the specific skill and he just helps him like, he'll help me analyze this particular ASIN on the Amazon marketplace. And he has the skill, the Apple review intelligence skill. So he knows exactly what to do and how to do it. And he uses the tool, right? So he goes, scrapes the reviews, pulls the reviews, and then shares the insights about the product, what people like, what don't like. And that is golden insight for the brand manager to then proceed and potentially optimize the listing or maybe figure out to use this information during his product research. So as you can see, we are just taking a part of an existing process and giving it to AI rather than letting AI or even imagining that the AI could do the whole thing, right? He's essentially co-pilot and assistant for our employee. So what are the implications of this for your business? First of all, for your team, AI becomes a necessity, like the AI literacy, people using AI, because AI is essentially a meta skill, right? If you get good at AI, you pretty much become good at everything else, right? And everyone should be comfortable using AI in their workflows, right? The structure I just showed you, right? So it's not necessarily that the AI will be replacing people, it's that the collaboration, right? Integrating, saving time, being more efficient. And what it means for the business operation, so we can even integrate the AI successfully and go beyond a simple chatbot, we need to map out the processes, right? Because if there's what I call the process depth, that you just don't know what's happening in your business, it's all chaos, you have people, but no one really documented anything, it will be very hard to come there and actually leverage AI more than the regular chatbot. So it's really documenting first, cleaning up, and then scaling with AI. If you want to learn more about AI, I recorded a comprehensive course. It's over 4 hours that basically talks all about automations with NA at N, building these AI agents, and the whole logic behind it. So make sure to watch it next, and I will see you next week. Bye.